In my last video, I used a MiterSet tool to set a precise angle and make a 6-segmented pizza-looking thing, which, by the way, is going to be a pizza peel with a pizza inlay in it. There's an in-progress shot. There'll be a video on that. And I really like the MiterSet. I endorse the product and continue to do so. Check out the link in the description. But I'm not a big fan of the plastic cases they come in. They both look the same. You end up pulling both of them out. I think there could be a better way to store these, so that's what I'm going to work on in this video today. And I'm a big fan of storing things close to where you're going to use them. You use this at the table saw, so I want to store them right on the front face of my table saw, which means I need to get all of this junk sticker stuff out of the way. But I did notice that the serial number was part of that thing, so I cut it off and glued it back onto the saw just to preserve that identity. So the MiterSets have this foamy plastic on the bottom that keeps it from sliding forward. I'm going to strip all of that stuff, that foamy stuff off, and come up with a different stop that prevents it from sliding forward when you're using it. Okay, so my idea is to wrap a strip of plywood around the two MiterSet plates, and I cut a groove on this one strip that's going to comprise both of those cradles for the MiterSets. Now it's possible that I'll drop a MiterSet and drive a pin deeply into the hole, and with this solution for storage I can still access the bottom to pop those pins out if they get really tightly driven into the holes. I decided I'd set up my fancy drawer cutting saw blade to make the joints in this. That's certainly not necessary. You can do this without my fancy blade, and I wouldn't be showing this to you if I wasn't pretty confident that soon I'll have some big news on it, so bear with me on this, but I thought it'd be a fun opportunity just to use this tool. And by the way, I've gotten the blade fixed so that there's no longer a gap in the joints. They come together perfectly, so that's fun. So I cut 5 of these joints along the length of the strip. This is what it looks like before I wrap it together. The 2 end pieces are just waste. They're only about 1 inch long. So I put glue in before wrapping it all together, and I've noticed with these joints it can be a problem to use too much glue because there's nowhere for it to squeeze out and it can put pressure on the joints, so I make sure that there's not too much excess glue in there before I wrap it all together. So I take it apart, and I need to split this in 2 so that it can be the cradle for both of the MiterSets. I do that on a table saw just like as if I was separating the lid from a box kind of thing. I use some epoxy to glue the MiterSet plates into those 2 cradles. And for once I actually mixed up the perfect amount of epoxy, so for the last little bit I had to scrape it from the plate. I don't think that ever happens. If anyone's doubting the strength of the joints that my blade makes, this really proved that they're quite strong because I made it just a little too small and I really had to hammer that miter plate in, which puts pressure directly on those joints, and they held together. And you can see it's not even 1 inch of material that's taking all that force, so it's quite a strong joint. Now I'm going to use a French cleat kind of system to hang this on the front of the saw and also to double as a stop on the table saw. That'll make sense in a second. For now I'm just cutting the angles on those French cleats. And I cut these 2 pieces to fit into the track on the table saw. Those go at the top of the tool. while the French cleats go on the bottom. I'm just using a little super glue to hold it in place for me to get the screws in. Okay, so here's how they work as a stop. The French cleat catches the lip of the table saw, so when I'm pushing forward with the miter fence to register on the pins, the miter set can't move. And then I'm hanging the second piece of wood on the front of the table saw so that the French cleat works like you normally expect it to. Two angled pieces of wood fitting into each other. So I get it level and just use two self-tapping screws with pilot holes to mount it. So here's a trick. If you want to drill a pilot hole for a nail and you want the perfect diameter, just grind down the same nail and use it as a drill. And if you break it, you won't care. I drill a hole in the detent bar so that I can hang it between the two miter sets. This doesn't interfere with its performance at all. So there they are, right in the front of the saw, right where I need them. Just pull the right one up, set it in place, and use it. I just have a feeling that someone's going to ask, why are they hanging upside down? That's because since the French cleat is doubling for the stop on the saw, if the French cleat was on this side to hang it right side up, then when you put it on the track in the saw, it would be this way, and you'd be kind of trying to awkwardly use the tool in this direction, and you'd be pushing the wrong way, and that French cleat would not be helping you anymore since it'd be on the wrong side. So the only way to have it double as the stop on the saw and the hanging standard French cleat kind of functionality is to hang them upside down. So that's why.